So what do? We kiss? You don't sleep with me? What are you playing at?
Sometimes you have to let things go.
The movie opens in France with Frank, a quality control inspector for high-rise structures. The next day, Frank and his wife, Leo, visit the hospital for a pregnancy checkup. Leo is 8 months pregnant, just days away from her due date. When they return home, they're shocked to find their apartment in complete disarray, as if someone had deliberately torn it apart while searching for something. Later, Frank meets with his best friend, Ben. During their conversation, it becomes clear that whoever ransacked Frank's apartment was searching for a key he had hidden. A few days later, while working with a colleague, Frank nearly falls from the building. In that moment, he spots a suspicious figure hurrying down the structure. Without hesitation, Frank gives chase, but the bald man manages to escape. Worried that he hasn't heard from Leo all day, Frank rushes home, relieved to find her safe and sound. Meanwhile, a white-haired man enters a waiting vehicle, where the same bald man who had escaped from Frank is seated. Moments later, the white-haired man ruthlessly kills him. That night, after Leo has fallen asleep, Frank sneaks up to the rooftop of their apartment building to check on the hidden key. Its purpose remains a mystery, but one thing is certain: it's extremely valuable, and Frank is determined to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. As Frank moves the key to a new hiding place inside a sink, Leo suddenly appears, confronting him. She demands to know why he's been so tense lately and why he's spending his nights on the rooftop instead of by her side. Just as she presses him for answers, an unexpected knock at the door startles them. At the same time, masked intruders break into their apartment, forcing their way inside. The way Frank and Leo fight back makes it clear that they're no ordinary couple. But despite their best efforts, they're eventually overwhelmed by the sheer number of attackers. After tying Frank up, one of the masked men forces his hand onto a gun's grip, capturing his fingerprints. The white-haired man, the same one who killed his subordinate earlier, is revealed to be Vanakin, a ruthless mercenary hired to retrieve the key from Frank. When Frank refuses to hand it over, Vanakin hacks into his phone and unlocks it before knocking him unconscious. He then orders his men to sedate Leo and take her away. The scene shifts to 10 years earlier, where a group of newly graduated elite GIGN officers are celebrating with their families and senior colleagues. Among them are Frank and Leo, who aren't in a relationship yet. Frank stands out as one of the top graduates of his class. During the event, Frank meets Nico, a fellow graduate, and his wife before being approached by his commanding officer, Astro. Astro hands Frank a badge with the words Ad Vitam engraved on the back, a badge that once belonged to Frank's father during his service. 2 years later, during the recruitment of new elite GIGN officers, Ben undergoes a series of tests to join the force like Frank. In the final test, he must shoot a target placed on the chest of a senior officer. Ben hits the mark perfectly, earning the title of top graduate that year. At the graduation celebration, Leo joins Ben, who isn't particularly close with his peers. She recognizes that his immigrant background might make it harder for him to fit in. When Frank sees Ben finally socializing, he takes the opportunity to approach Leo. Worried that she might develop feelings for Ben, Frank quickly confesses his own feelings for her. To his surprise, Leo reveals that she has liked him for 2 years. Their conversation takes a romantic turn in a restroom, but just as the moment is about to escalate, a heavily intoxicated Ben stumbles in, on the verge of throwing up. Later that night, as Frank heads home with Nico and his wife Manon, Nico teases him, asking if he and Leo will be spending the night together. That day marks the official beginning of Frank and Leo's relationship, and Ben, Nico, and Manon warmly welcome them as a couple. A week later, following a training session, Frank receives a call from Eric, a room attendant at the Trianon Palace. Eric reports hearing gunshots from one of the rooms. Acting on this information, Frank rushes to the hotel with Nico and Ben. While gathering details from hotel management, two suspects ambush them, shooting both Ben and Nico. After subduing the attackers, Frank immediately tends to Nico, who is gravely injured. Unfortunately, Nico succumbs to his wounds and dies the following day. Frank's boss, Astro, reprimands him for acting recklessly without waiting for orders, leading to two officers being shot, one of whom tragically lost his life. As a consequence, Astro feels compelled to ask Frank to resign from their unit. After taking one last look at his father's photo at headquarters, Frank goes to the locker room to collect his belongings. The next day, following Nico's burial, Frank notices Leo engaged in a serious conversation with Astro. Nico's death has profoundly impacted her, prompting her decision to leave the GIGN as well. Later, Frank visits Ben, who is still recovering from his injuries. While there, they come across a social media post suggesting that the shooters at the Trianon Palace were ex-Special Forces. However, the claim is quickly dismissed due to a lack of evidence. Ben warns Frank to stay out of the situation. It is also revealed that Ben's injuries are severe enough to prevent him from performing physically demanding tasks. Though an administrative position was offered, he ultimately decides to resign. Learning the truth only deepens Frank's guilt. One evening, while dining at a restaurant, Leo shares unexpected news: she is pregnant. To prepare for their baby's arrival, Frank and Leo decide to move into a larger apartment. While packing, Frank stumbles upon his badge, stained with blood from one of the shooters involved in the Trianon Palace incident. Driven by curiosity, Frank contacts a forensic doctor he knows, requesting a DNA analysis. Later, Frank meets with Ben and informs him that one of the gunmen has been identified as Salim, a former Special Forces operative. Salim is known to work with the Directorate of Security and coordinate with multiple government ministries. Frank suspects that the tourist found dead at the hotel was not an ordinary guest. Once again, Ben urges him to stay out of it. Taking Ben's advice, Frank stores the information about Salim in a locker and hides the locker key on the rooftop of his apartment. This revelation confirms that Frank has been safeguarding the key all along. Years later, unable to suppress his need to uncover the conspiracy surrounding the Trianon case, Frank meets with a journalist to discuss the matter, ensuring his identity remains anonymous. After striking an agreement, he hands over the evidence he has gathered. Meanwhile, at the ministry's office, the head of the Directorate of Security meets with the minister. During their discussion, it is revealed that 7 months ago, Colonel John Brennan, a former American officer now working for the CIA, arrived in France with his security detail to negotiate a weapons deal with Australia. Two staff members attempted to retrieve critical documents from John's hotel room, but their plan was foiled when John and his guard unexpectedly returned. This led to Salim and his accomplice fatally shooting them. Further investigations reveal that a former GIGN officer named Frank possesses evidence implicating the Directorate of Security. Frank learned this from a journalist affiliated with the same media outlet as the reporter he initially approached. Realizing the potential diplomatic crisis between France and the United States if the material reaches the CIA, the minister orders her subordinates to recover Frank's evidence and eliminate him to silence any witnesses. In the present, after successfully kidnapping Leo, Vanaken contacts Frank, who has just regained consciousness. He informs Frank of his wife's dire situation and demands the hidden evidence be delivered within 4 hours, or he will kill Leo. Before ending the call, Vanaken warns Frank that involving the police would be futile. Using Frank's fingerprints, which were taken from a weapon, Vanaken has framed him as a fugitive, blaming him for the murders of his own men. Determined to save Leo, Frank quickly gathers himself and rushes to his apartment to retrieve the key he had concealed in the bathroom sink. However, upon arriving, he is stunned to find several police officers inside. As Frank attempts to recover the key, he is shocked to discover that it is no longer there. Before he can react, an officer spots him. Moments later, Frank struggles to escape and flee, successfully dodging the authorities. He rushes to Ben's workplace and explains everything that has transpired. Realizing that the locker key is missing and that Frank needs a blood-stained badge as leverage, Ben takes Frank to his house and gives him his own badge. Frank smears his blood on it, hoping to deceive Vanaken's group. Shortly after, Frank and Ben arrive at a rendezvous point deep in the forest to avoid detection. Ben carefully steps back before reaching the location and discreetly installs a tracking device on Frank. Upon arriving at Vanaken's lair, Frank is promptly restrained, his arms chained by Vanaken's henchmen. When Frank finally confronts Vanaken, the villain seizes Frank's phone and takes him to Leo, who is held captive in the wilderness. Acquiring the blood-stained badge he sought, Vanaken orders his men to activate Frank's phone and send a message to all of his contacts, making it appear as if Frank had killed Leo before committing an unspeakable act. Unbeknownst to Vanaken, the police, already searching for Frank, receive a notification from the phone's enabled GPS. With his plan in place, Vanaken leaves the area, leaving 3 of his men behind to execute Frank and Leo. Just when all seems lost, a masked Ben emerges and rescues them. Frank, Leo, and Ben hijack a car and flee, triggering a frantic chase with gunfire echoing through the forest. Amidst the chaos, Leo is struck by a bullet, seriously injuring her arm. As Frank attempts to stop the bleeding, Leo's water breaks. She is in labor. Realizing the urgency, Frank urges Ben to take Leo to the hospital while he stays behind to delay Vanaken's men. A heated battle ensues, with Vanaken ordering his troops to continue the pursuit of Ben's car. Frank manages to escape on a stolen Forest Ranger motorcycle, but Vanaken chases him relentlessly. Inside the car, Ben watches in horror as Leo grows pale and weak. He desperately tries to keep her conscious, but her condition rapidly deteriorates. Meanwhile, Vanaken's men close in, and Frank, now pursued by both Vanaken and the police, makes a daring escape by stealing a paramotor from a farmer and taking to the skies. While airborne, Frank calls Ben to check on Leo's condition. It's clear that Leo is fading quickly, slipping in and out of consciousness. Frank also realizes that Ben has suffered terrible injuries, his body bloodied and bruised. Meanwhile, their former boss, Astro, receives orders to put an end to Frank and Ben's escape. Without hesitation, Astro organizes his squad for intervention. Still pursued, Ben desperately pushes forward to reach the hospital, guided by Frank from above, who directs him through shortcuts. As Ben finally pulls into the hospital parking lot, Vanaken appears, gun in hand, ready to finish him off. Just in time, Frank swoops down and intervenes. Before he can eliminate Vanaken, Astro and his team unexpectedly arrive, surrounding them. Despite the imminent danger, Frank rushes into the car and drives his dying wife to the hospital. After Leo receives medical attention, Astro arrests Frank, holding him accountable for his alleged crimes, including the murders of Vanaken's men. 1 month later, an emotional Frank receives a visit from Leo and their newborn child. In a poignant moment, Leo reveals that she had found the locker key during the battle and had already submitted the evidence to the government. Days later, Frank is acquitted of all charges, with his actions deemed self-defense. He is also cleared of any responsibility for the deaths of Vanaken's men. In the film's final scene, Frank and Leo embrace, their love and resilience shining through. Watching from a distance, a fully recovered Ben smiles, happy to witness their joy. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.